Hello everyone, Zellerant here, and for today's video on Umamusume, we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming Gacha banners that will be coming alongside the Halloween update. And so like all the kind of holiday-themed ones, we're going to be getting 2 Umas and 2 support cards. And so those are going to be the Tamamo Cross SSR Power, the Zenno Rob Roy SSR Speed, and then for the Umas, we have Rice Shower Halloween and Super Creek Halloween. So like all my videos, we're going to be just taking a look at the Umas first, kind of what they have, or their stat bonuses, their skills, and kind of my thoughts on them and whether or not they might be a valuable pull. And then we'll look at the support cards after and what they got when it comes to their skills, their stat sticks and all that, and whether or not, not just whether or not you might want to pull for them, but also if they may be a valuable borrow, as a lot of times there's situational uses for a lot of these support cards to be borrowed. And so first we'll take a look at Rice Shower though. And so Rice Shower right off the bat, I actually really like her skin. I think she got one of the nicer skins in the game when it comes to one of the themed ones. On stat bonuses, I really like her stat bonuses as well at 15%, 15%. Those are like, to me, the harder ones. Like speed is easy to max, maybe because it's probably your main target. You're always wanting to build up that speed. As we get into wit meta, same kind of thing. Wit's becoming a lot easier. And then it's just kind of dealing with your sparks and support cards on trying to get as high of stamina and power as you can. And with having 15% in both of these, it kind of gives you a lot of flexibility. And so I really, really like that. On her aptitudes, Turf A, Mile C, A, Medium A, Long. I mean, it's just your typical Rice Shower. She's also Short E, so you could technically build her for Short. But Short, you're really going to want Turf Sparks to get Turf S. So I most likely would not want to bring her there. But if she's an Oshi to you, you can. Now, when it comes to her skills, there's a reason you really don't need her for Short. Because she's built around debuffs. But then on her positionings here, she can be front, pace, or late. On this one, you're never going to run her as front. It's going to be pace or late, kind of depending on the track and the makeup of it. And we'll see the reasoning why here. So her ult is basically a debuff. So it's suck endurance from runners ahead while well positioned and pressured by another runner mid-race. And so what that means on the conditions, phase 1, so in the first phase of basically mid-race. And then order is greater than equal to 2, so she has to be second place. And not farther than, or in the less than or equal to a 50%. So when you look at that one, that is, you're in the second half of the pack. So she has to be in that front half. And so that's where it can be kind of tricky, because it's going to depend on the track itself. On longs, for example, the one coming up, Libra Cup, I'm running a Pace Chaser McQueen, and she gets Lucky Pace all the time. And if you get Lucky Pace, this is not going to activate. And that's going to be very important because this is one of your recoveries. It's a stamina recovery of a 0.055, so basically a gold recovery, while also doing a stamina drain on the enemy girls in front of you. Not very strong, but it is a stamina drain, so it is a debuff to that. And then it also gives you a speed increase. So a very nice skill, just it's very conditional. And when it comes to like a long, like on the next one, Libra Cup, the stamina recovery is nice, but since it's so conditional, if you have to rely on this, just know on some races she's not going to hit that condition and very well may just die outright. But other than that, if she hits it, it's pretty strong overall. You have Trick Front to increase fatigue for those behind. You can give some debuffs to those behind you. Long straightaways, so a nice little skill there for long races. Then she also still has Calm and Collected built in, so she pretty much has everything you need for recoveries. So you don't even need Super Creek or any of those. You can have both your recoveries here you need for a long race, which is really, really nice. But this one is built around Pace Chaser, and if you were going to run her as a Pace Chaser on a long, you would want to probably have a teammate that's a front runner just to make sure that she's not going to get that lucky pace. And then you'll probably be good to go with that. Then you have Hesitant front runners, and then she actually has a the gold version of Trick Front. So that one is going to be a behind you stamina drain of 0.03. So now you have another one. So you now can kind of start to see some more heavy stamina builds. If you're one of those people that really likes on longs to like take a nice nature, and now you have Wendy Mayano Top Gun, you have both of them doing All Eyes on Me and Mystifying Murmur draining people, you could build a Rice Shower, basically ace Pace Chaser that is built around now. She's going to drain everybody from the front side of things, and then hopefully take the win from there at that point. Hopefully you just kill everybody off, especially like those gold ships and Narita Taishins, which are going to be your biggest enemies. So pretty nice right there. Don't need to really look at the evolutions here. And actually, I should probably keep it on global so I don't see the extra stuff there. And so when you take a look at that, we have also firm conditions built in Kyoto race course. So really, really nice, especially for the upcoming Libra Cup. And you have deep breaths, but you really shouldn't need cooldown. But and you will have, if you bring her in Unity Cup, you will be given access to cooldown, but you don't actually need it or want it because you're going to still want to take No Stopping Me. Now this is because with the buffs, No Stopping Me is very, very strong on Libra Cup and other long races. So I don't see you ever taking cooldown from Unity Cup with this. So you're just going to want to use Calm and Collected and her ult as kind of your recoveries. But overall, really nice Uma. I really like her kit here. If you love your debuffers, she is going to be one of those for you. Although we do have another one coming up here in the future as well. But then we have to take a look at the other one here, which is Super Creek. All right, I have Super Creek up here with her mummy costume. And so we take a look at her stat bonuses. We have 14% speed, 8% stamina, 8% guts. Not the biggest fan of that. I really like it when it's 20% speed, just for the fact that that generally has allowed me when I go over a high roll to bring a single speed card to really stockpile some of these other stats with different cards. 14% might be pushing it. I don't think I've done a 10% with a single speed card, and so kind of a little awkward there on the stats. But I mean, I would have to try out somebody with these kind of stat lines to really see what works and what doesn't. But we have aptitudes, a turf. I mean, it's just your Super Creek stuff. So she's turf, medium, and longs, and primarily you're going to want to use her as a pace, but she can work as front and late. Now, here's where it's kind of tricky with her. With her ult, it increases the ability to break out of the pack when well positioned and close to the runner ahead on the final straight. And so the conditions here is it the last straight? Which that's the big one right there. Is it last straight? Order is less than or equal to 4, and Bastion difference in less than or equal to 1. When you take a look at that, I think that's right behind them. Yeah, horse lengths directly behind you. So you can activate this, and it's basically a speed increase, and then you have acceleration alongside it to push you up to it. So it can work pretty good. It's like a weaker Triumphant Pulse, but it has acceleration to kind of get you up to it quicker. But the big thing with this ult is not the fact that you have it for her on the last straight on like longs and mediums, but actually instead for shorts. It is going to be, if you're running a front runner, this will be a meta skill that replaces Seiyun Skies when Seiyun Skies is not good. And the one problem is there's very few tracks where that's the case. And so I kind of looked through them. It looks like they're pretty much always going to be short races. Not all short races, but it looks like only short races are going to be in those conditions. And I found the first short race we'll be having, the Capricorn Cup, the 1200 meter turf on the Chukyo course, is going to be one of those scenarios. And that is because your front runner the late race is going to activate on a straight, not a corner. Meaning Seiyun Skies is not going to activate. So instead, you want to have a Super Creek so you can activate it right here. And then you pair that alongside El Condor Pasas. And so Super Creeks and El Condor Pasa activates here, and there's your acceleration. And you really want both of them for your frontrunners on that, because on the inherits, they are 0.1 excel. 0.1 excel on her and 0.1 excel on El Condor Pasa. So you're going to need both of those just to equal the same thing you get with the Seiyun Sky. And so that's the big thing with her unique, although it also works for her as just a kind of a speed increase on the final straight on her own track. So it's not like it's bad on her per se, it's just not like a meta level ultimate for her herself. You then have a Corner Adept, Murmur built in, and yeah, we're going to get to that here in a second. Also Hydrate, she has Pace Tracer Corners, Professor of Curvature, Medium Straightaways. But the big one here, I think the one everyone is going to be paying attention to for the upcoming medium that we'll be having after the Libra, so the Scorpio Cup. Now, luckily Scorpio Cup's a little bit shorter, but we're going to have our third Uma that has Mystifying Murmur. And so with this, if you love your debuffers, I've already talked about Raishao and her being able to be somebody you can use if you love your debuffs. This one, you can now field a Mayano Top Gun, a Super Creek, and a Nice Nature on a medium race and have 3 Mystifying Murmurs. You're going to just be laying down the law on the map with these in terms of stamina debuffs. And so it'll actually make it where mediums, you could potentially run into 6 Mystifying Murmurs. Now, hybrids are always weaker as aces overall, so if people can survive, then you're very likely going to lose. But if you have 3 yourself and your opponents each have 1, that means everybody's getting hammered with 4. And so that could be very, very strong if you want to go that direction on your builds when it comes to the medium races. But with time, stamina is going to be less of an issue, especially since we have the Rico card. So who knows? We'll have to kind of see. But it just means she does open up the possibility now for there to be 3 Mystifying Murmurs out there. And now that we have 3, also more likely to have 2, because Nice Nature everybody has. And then if you have Mayano Top Gun or Super Creek, now you have the potential for 2. So I could see more people now fielding 2 of them, which was pretty deadly in the Aleo Cup. I will say, whenever I've seen it, it was pretty strong. But other than that, there's really nothing else too crazy about her. Corner Recovery, Hydrate, Studious, Steadfast, Prepared to Pass. The biggest thing is, ultimately, she has the meta short race under certain circumstance alt. There's not enough of them for warrant to pulver her, like what I wanted to do. And instead, it's just going to have to deal with doing it through inherits, because I'm going to be skipping this banner. And so, ultimately, to me, if you like your debuffers, this is a great banner to pull on. But other than that, it's an easy skip. We have a lot of good stuff coming up. But now, that's the Umas. Let's take a look at the support cards. And I actually like both of these support cards, but they're definitely not going to be pulls. But they do have some value, potentially depending on the makeup of your deck, as borrows. And so the first one we'll take a look at is Tamamo Cross Power. So right now we're in that unique scenario where power cards have some potential, especially with the Rico card in the Unity Cup, and you can pair it with like a Power Rice Shower, and that should be able to top up your stamina. So this could have some potential value to you depending on your needs and what you need to borrow. So this one has Friendship Training, 10% there, plus 25%, so you get the 35, so pretty strong. Friendship Training, Initial Friendship Gauge of 15, plus 20, so she starts right off the bat really high in friendship. Mood Effect, Race Bonus 10%. Always gotta love your Race bonus 10%. Make a new track, that's like the minimum you're gonna want on your cards. If you bring any that have 5%, then you really want to make up for that with a 15%. So, like that there. Fan Bonus. Stamina Bonus on a power card. Always love to have your stamina bonuses on them. Makes them a lot more valuable when you're building around using power cards, maybe like Stamina Sparks or whatnot. And then Initial Power 30. Now, it's just like your the Tamamo Cross stamina card on all these skills. Really nice for mediums, medium corners, 1.5 million CC. But the big one is you have the gold version of 1.5 million, which is 15 million CC, which just ups it from a 1.1, I think 0.15 to a 0.35 on there. And yeah, and same length. So basically a 0.2 increase to that. Has wet conditions. And then you kind of go through here. Now I will say, when it comes to borrows, this card, you have 2 Tamamo Crosses you can borrow, depending on if you need stamina or power. I've used the stamina one like crazy, and I find the stamina Tamamo Cross just better in general, now that it has Tail Held High built in, as well as Fast and Furious, which is also good on your late surgers. And since you already have 1.5 million CC built into the stamina one, as well as just as high of, you have very high hint levels on that one. This one does not have the hint levels. The stamina has, I think it's hint level 3, that I'd almost always choose the other one over this one. But if you're going with a power build, I find this one to be pretty good. But talking late surgers, this is, I think, the big card of this banner. And if you're like a Leviathan Whale and you like your late surgers, this is one you would pull on. But this is one you may, if you like your late surgers, you may potentially want to borrow, especially for the upcoming Libra Cup. And that is, we'll get to the reasoning here in a second. But the first part is just looking at the stat sticks. Friendship Training, 10% with 20, so going up to 30 there. Training Effectiveness, 10% when you add the unique plus that. Initial Friendship Gauge of 25, Special Priority of 50. You have mood effect 30%, and then when you get to the higher level stuff, she has speed bonus, hint levels 3, and hint frequency 40. I prefer hint level 4 just because that maxed out a skill, so you can't hit it again. 3 is very good because you get a very strong hint, but then when you get a hint from her again, it could still hit that same skill again. So that kind of sucks, but it is pretty strong overall there. But where she gets really strong, I mean, these are all the same skills you see on the SR version of her. I believe it's a stamina card, the Zenno Rob Roy SR. Pace Chaser Savvy, Late Surger Savvy, Straightaway Adept, Nimble Navigator. So a lot of good skills here overall. But the big part that I really like with this card is down here. First, you have right and left-handed, which are built into the second event of the chain. Guaranteed to get one of the two. There's no gamble. You pick the top option if you want right-handed, mid option if you want left-handed. And if for some reason you want wit instead, you take the 30. I would almost always want to get one of the skills, whichever one's the strong one for the champions meeting. But then finally, late surgers now will have access to another stamina skill. So if you have a MLB Kitasan Black and you don't want to borrow Super Creek, or maybe you have some other options, and you only really need one gold skill because you're able to get really high stamina, this is also a potential borrow. Or if you need double stamina and you have Super Creek / Right Shower for your swinging Maestro, you can get your second gold now from Zenno Rob Roy. It's basically recover endurance when positioned towards the back upon approaching a mid-race. So it's going to be late surger, and you have to be in 5th or back. Or no, greater than equal, so 4th or back. So very easy as a late surger to trigger this. Although, kind of seeing some of the test runs of Libra Cup, I've seen late surgers actually turn into a front runner because so few are running front and paces. Although there will be some paces. So hopefully you can pull off being greater than or equal to 4 for your long races as a late surger. And bam, right there is another heal. And you could always just build your own pace chasers to kind of help keep you in the back there. And so you have that. So that's a big part about this card. And then it's a speed card. It's a pretty decent speed stick. So I think for late surgers, this might be one of your top borrows. And even though it doesn't have Professor of Curvature, but if you really need the stamina skill, instead of borrowing Kitasan Black, if you need to borrow Kitasan Black, you could potentially borrow this over her because it is still a speed stat stick. Not as strong on the speed side of things, but it does give you one more recovery. So it really depends on your deck, but I overall like that card a lot. But when we kind of look at these now, when it talks about pulling, my advice would be, unless you're a super whale, don't pull on either of these, unless these are one of your Oshis. So just borrow what you need on the support card side of things. And reason being, when we take a look what's coming up, I mean, I've gone over these multiple times, but we have basically, we go up through here. Another kind of whaley banner with the Sayun Sky Muteki Power reruns. Manhattan Cafe. I know she's a lot of people want to pull her. She's another one. If you like your debuffers, and maybe you like Manhattan Cafe more than the others, she has the gold version of Stamina Eater in her. Now it's only for longs, but she does have that debuff. She's going to be very long specific. So if you want a debuffer that specifically targets longs, you can always look at her instead of those two. If you already have, for example, Wedding Mayano Top Gun, you have Mystifying Murmur, 2 copies of it. So unless you want to go a triple Mystifying Murmur, not as much needed as well there. But you have a couple skips up here, but you have Kitasan Black. Kitasan Black's just getting closer and closer and closer. So if you don't have her MLB, you really want to hold on to it, especially since right after her comes the even more important one for late surgers, which is going to Meijiro Dober, which is similar to Meijiro Ryan, except it activates in 6th and 5th place. Now, there are some conditions to it, like not getting, I think this one's not getting, whatever you call it, temptation count equals 0, so not, let's see. Yeah, rushed, not getting rushed. I mean, I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but, so it has a condition of not getting rushed, but it's 6th and 5th place. So very, very good. And you pair that alongside Meijiro Ryan's Let's Pump Some Iron, and you can have some really big excel. So that for late surgers is more important than getting those support cards for your late surgers. And then you have everything that comes up with that after. I mean, we don't have to go over everything. Just know that you have a lot of big stuff coming up, and so you should just continue to save here and borrow what you need. that is my thoughts on these banners coming up. You're already going to get a very strong support card in the Whip Mihono Bourbon. So no real need to be pulling at this point unless these are your Oshis, like I said. But that'll be it for now. And if you like my content, if you could like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.